Tracy. Welcome back to Love Your Shelf. New year. We got a new place that I'm settling in to do my videos, and normally my microphone is somewhere, but I've been having some issues with some of the sound based on my last video, so we're gonna try to hold it and see how that works. Obviously it won't work for everything, but because I have to hold books, that's more important for sure, but it might work for at least this episode. So cool, we will try it out. I have new shelves behind me that I got for Christmas, so I was able to make a little like reading nook area for my dogs and me to hang out, so I was excited to share that with you guys. I hope that you're all having a great new year, but before we move on to the new year, I want to talk about all the books I read in 2022. So I've done a top 10 and a bottom 10 of the books that I read in 2022, like mid-December, before I finished all my books. So according to Goodreads and Storygraph, which are the two apps that I use, I read 69 books this year, approximately 21,000 pages. I don't know if I read a little more, a little less than that, but around there. Last year, or 2021, I also read 69 books, so I'm a little bummed because I was really hoping that I'd get that 70th one in there. But if I'm being honest, I almost didn't get 68 or 69, so I guess I'll just be grateful for what I have. And then my goal this year is to read 100 books, because I did a 101 things to do in 1,001 days goal like years ago, and it ends January 14th of 2024, and one of those things is to have 500 books on my Goodreads. So I've read probably not 500 books, but closer to 500 books in my Goodreads says, because there's so many books that I read as a kid that I didn't put a lot of very little children's books in there, or any, but I did put Boxcar Children. I don't know which ones I've read, so I just put the whole series as one book. So yeah, I don't know. So it's according to my Goodreads, and I'm at 395, and so I can do 100 this year and 5 between January 1st and January 14th, and hopefully be good to go. So we'll see how that works. I have already read one book this year, and I'm in the middle of 2 or 3 more. But we are going to start talking about the books I read in 2022 right now. So I'm just going to go down the list. There's 69 of them, and we will see where we end up. So I'm going to start with my least favorite book of the year, and I'll say some stuff about some of them, but we'll try to be quick about it. So The Other Black Girl was my least favorite book of the year. I talk about it in my least favorite books. Essentially, I just felt like it was a lot of drama with no climax. I Would Leave Me If I Could, which is a book by Halsey. It's a poetry book. I think if she cut it in half and put her favorite ones in there, I would have liked it more, but it's 150 pages, and there's some good ones and some not so great ones. 65, The Guide by Peter Heller, was just really disappointing for me because I loved The River and the guide just didn't stack up. Walden by Henry David Thoreau. I didn't put authors on here. We'll see how good this goes. By Henry David Thoreau. I didn't hate it. I like the whole idea of it, but 350 pages of the idea and talking to you about how bread was 7 cents or whatever, I could have done without that. It was a little dry, but the philosophy behind it was really important, and I get that. Namesake by Adrienne Young, what is a second book, and I never read the first one. I didn't feel like the characters were developed or that anything very exciting happened. So that was 64. 63 is Ariel by Sylvia Plath. I'm really sorry to say that. I loved The Bell Jar. Maybe I'm not as into poetry as I thought I was going to be. I don't know. I'm sure it's not you, Sylvia Plath, it's me. So I'm sorry. 62 is The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare. That was just really disappointing for me. It probably wasn't a horrible book, but I love, love, love Magnus Bane from when I read The Clockwork Prince and The Clockwork Princess and The Clockwork Angel. I loved him. So to go to like this place where everything was all right, it didn't spur my love for Magnus Bane, so I was sad. 61, Allegory of the Cave. So Allegory of a Cave is also a philosophy book, a philosophical, like tiny little story, and it's really good, but I did it audibly. So that's another point that I think is a huge thing, and I'm going to talk about that when I get to one specific book, is some books are better to listen to and some books are not. And I think that The Allegory of the Caves is something I need to like read word for word and unpack because there's so much in such a short story. So the way I read it, that's probably my fault too. That was 61. 60, The White Tiger. And The White Tiger, I just found out, was actually the 2008 Pulitzer Prize book. And I didn't know that when I read it. I just found out recently. And it was good, but I wanted it to be about a white tiger, the animal, and it's about a person who's considered the white tiger. It just wasn't what I was looking for. 59, Dial A for Aunties, or Aunties, depending on how you say it. Has good Weekend at Bernie vibes, but I read it in between other books I was really into, and I just wasn't as into that, so... 58, In the Quick. So In the Quick was one of the first books that I read this year, and it's science-based. It's about a woman that goes to NASA and inevitably ends up on another planet, maybe solar system, maybe moon. I can't remember. Something besides Earth, maybe a spaceship. I don't remember. But it's portrayed as a romance novel, and the character she fell in love with was blah. And I didn't consider it a romance novel in any way. And my favorite part of it was the scientific portions because it helped you think about things in different ways. So, yeah. 57 is Big Sur by Jack Kerouac. I read On the Road in college and I absolutely love it. Big Sur was... A lot of it's not about Big Sur. Like, it's about his time, but he's with a woman and he's lonely in his older age, and he realizes that people's lives are changing, but his is still the same, and it's sad, and I thought it was going to be adventure-y. I love the end when he essentially he writes the noises of the waves at Big Sur. That was really great, but that was what it had going for it. Here at Dawn is a poetry book, which actually has like really great morals about loving life and being grateful for things. But after reading like over 100 pages, it all seemed to feel the same and have the same like cliched messages. And so also could have been shorter, I think. Number 55 is Norwegian Wood by Murakami. I've read 2 of his books now. I started with Kafka on the Shore. I got Norwegian Wood. I thought it was going to be great. He has some misogynistic views. It was what it was. I'm not done with you, Murakami. I'm gonna find a book of you that I like because you're so highly like rated and considered well read, and I'm gonna find it. So more to come on Murakami. Okay, 54, Recitative. Yeah, it's a good short story. I did enjoy it. I just read a lot of longer things that got me thinking more. So 53 is The Vanished Bride, which is about a mystery that the 3 sisters, the Bronte sisters, are trying to unlock. And it is not bad for what it was, but it's not really my type of thing. 52 was Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. And I have heard really, really, really amazing things by this one YouTuber that I watch. And so I was so excited for it. And I just felt like the first half was really slow. And then the second half picked up and I liked it better. But there were some funny parts. It just wasn't what I thought it was going to be based on how much it was like hyped up. 51 is The Book with No Pictures by BJ Novak, which is just a children's book, but I got to read it to a child who loved it and said that I read it better than anybody else, and it was a good fun time. But it is a children's book at the end of the day, so there are other books that rank higher. 50, The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri, was good. It's essentially about a guy who doesn't like his name and then later on starts to like his name. Spoiler alert, he gets cheated on and it's very sad. Okay. 49 is Darth Vader Volume 1. I read a comic of Darth Vader and it was like, it's in between like episode 3 and episode 4. And it was really interesting. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, only because it's Star Wars. So, Come Fly the World is a historical book about flight attendants. And it was not the book I thought it was going to be, but it was still really interesting. Has a lot of good information. Shatter Me has been going around. There's like 7 of these books now. Tahereh Mafi, I think, is the author of that, and it's a good book. It's well written, but there's like 7 or 8 of them, and I don't know if I'm captivated enough to read the other 6. And yeah, the next one is, oh my gosh, I skipped 2. So 47 is Quiet. I'm very extroverted, and most of my favorite people are introverted. So it's good to read stuff like that because you get to learn about other people's perspectives. And for real, it's super true that the world's not made for introverted people. Like normally leaders, people that are considered leaders or get to lead are because of a whole bunch of stuff that extroverts have to do or introverts have to like really, really, really put forth effort to do. And that's super unfair. So it's a good book to think about. So that was 47. 46 was Hector and the Search for Happiness, which was a Goodwill book that I got. And it's about a guy that tries to find what makes people happy. And it's interesting. Okay, so that puts me at 45, which was Shatter Me. Then we have 44, which is The Great Gatsby. And I've read The Great Gatsby before, but I reread it this time, and F. Scott Fitzgerald, I love him so much, and he says so many amazing, incredible, beautiful sentences and paragraphs about life. And The Great Gatsby is, for all intents and purposes, an amazing book, a great classic, but at the end of the day, it depends on how you look at it. Is it a guy that's throwing parties and no one knows who he is, which is awesome, or is it, spoiler alert, a guy that will do anything for someone and is kind of borderline creepy? So, and then tragic things happen. I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. So anyway, 43 is Don't Look Behind You by Peter Allison, which is more stories about his time as a safari guide, which is super fun and adventurous, and I loved it. My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry is by Frederick Backman, and it's about a grandmother who passes, and she sends her 7-year-old grandkid in her will to like essentially apologize to everyone in her life for who she is. Not really, but kind of like get to know them, so she can recognize that they're all like, good human beings. And it's heartwarming, but it was probably my least favorite Backman book that I've ever read. 41, Piranesi. I I almost said by Amelia Clark. Susanna Clark, question mark, is who that's by. She's written 2 books now. Piranesi is the second one. It is why I read Allegory of the Caves, is because someone in book club said that it's similar, and I totally see that. It is a fun read, and I'm not going to ruin it for anyone. So if you've heard about this book and you're interested, go pick it up. 40 was Heartstopper. I read the first one, volume 1. I haven't read 2, 3, or 4. It was good. 39. Okay, so this is where we're going to stop for a second and talk about this. So 100 Years of Solitude is a book that I've been told, like, classically is people's, like, favorite book for, a classic book. And so I started reading it audibly, and someone should have warned me not to do that, because everyone's names are so similar. So that sucked, because it was really hard to figure out, who is what and what happened to who. And essentially it follows a family for like 100 years in this village. And I started reading it by Audible, and then I went on vacation. So I brought the actual book because I had it, and I stayed up till like 3 a.m. reading it. And then I went back to Audible because I came back from vacation, and I ended up going back to the book. So sometimes Audible is very important, and it is better to read it by book. And sometimes, like, the Audible version is so amazing that it's better to read it audibly. And 100 Years of Solitude, I started reading it by book too. The first like 2 chapters, but I couldn't get into it, which is why I started reading it audibly, and then I was confused. And then after I got into it, I was like, dang it, I should have been reading this the whole time. So anyway, it has magic realism in it. It's very different, but not in a bad way. Number 38, South Pole Station, by Shelby Ashley, question mark. So South Pole Station is about a girl that goes to Antarctica, and she's an artist. And I really enjoyed it. It made me think of things in totally different ways. Just listening to other people's art journeys helps me learn new things, and I love that. So The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin is number 37, and that is a really fun book. There's a lot going on. The characters are very well developed. Their hobbies are very well introduced. Just the way it's an incredible book. Actually, if I think about it too much, I might dislike my list and move that up pretty far. Like, if I put it against another book, maybe it would be higher. I'm actually surprised it's so low on the list, but for real, I have a lot of really good books here, so we'll see. 37 38 is Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which I was told was a really good book, and I started reading it, and it was one of the highest rated on Goodreads, and at the end of the year, it was one of the lowest ratings on Goodreads. So a lot of people ended up reading it and then taking it apart because of the time travel aspect of it and the new rules that came with it. But at the end of the day, it was just a heartfelt story, and I didn't like the first story as much because it felt like schoolgirl stupid, but the rest of it was really good in my mind, so that's good. And sometimes we're all little schoolgirls and heartbroken about shit, so it happens, and that's what this woman was, so maybe I shouldn't be so hard on her. Okay, 35 is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, which is also, it's a really good book. I just read a lot of really good books this year, so it's about Achilles, obviously, and yeah, it's really good. Pick it up. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong is so incredibly well written. Like, this man and his words make me melt. He's incredible. So it's a letter to his mother that doesn't know how to read, but like, it's more than that. I mean, it's so much more than that. I love how he talks about literature in his books. I love how his love through his mother comes out even through their hard traumatic incidences together. I love the way he describes him learning about his sexual preferences, like, because you go through that when, I don't know if you go through that when you're hetero, but when you're not, you go through that shit. So it was really cool to listen to, no, to read. I read that one. It was good. 33 Remarkably Bright Creatures. This would have been in my top 10, but the author like wrapped it all up in a cute little box bow at the end, and I wasn't about that. I loved the octopus. I loved the old lady that is friends with the octopus, but there is a character that's like 30 that acts like he's 12, and I could not stand him. And everything works out for him, and it was annoying. So, yeah. 32 was Missoula, which is by Jack Krakauer, who's my favorite journalist, hands down. And it's about rape in college communities, specifically Missoula, where there is a college that had a lot of different rapes that he investigated. And it is such a hard read. Lots of triggers, but it is really good, and it's very helpful to be aware that things like this are going on. So 31 is The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. It's like a almost 600 page book that has like 7 other books that go with it, and it's kind of like Shatter Me. I don't know if I'm going to get into the other books. It didn't like grab my attention enough, but it piqued my interest a lot, and I am very interested to see what will happen next. I just can't decide if I'm going to invest another 600 pages into the second book and then 600 into the third, and so on, but it is good. 30 is Recursion by Blake Crouch, and I loved this book. I don't even want to tell you what it's about. I just want to tell you to go and read it. I will tell you that I've been waiting to read something by Blake Crouch, because I did read something by Blake Crouch in like an Amazon miniseries about how technology, like people make technology for the better, but then other people use it for the worse, and how that can come across, like how things that you think you're making for good end up being used for bad, essentially. And he did a short story in that, and I liked it, so I was really interested to read more of his stuff. But I was also scared because like Dark Matter had just come out, and it's supposed to be scary, but Recursion is not scary. It's just really good. So I picked it up because someone said that it was like The Matrix mixed with Inception and something else, I don't remember, but like, yeah, it is. Pick that book up. It's amazing. Number 29 is Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. I love Brené Brown. She uses the word braving to talk about things. So like B is boundaries, V is vault, and V is my favorite. I think about all the time. Like, if someone told me something, I should keep that in a vault. That's not for me to talk about. That's their thing. And I really just like that. I think that's a great idea. So Braving the Wilderness, Brené Brown. 28 is God, I Feel Modern Tonight, which is a poetry book that my sister picked up when I told her I wanted to read more poetry. And she said, this seems like your type of book. And damn it, it was. It's freaking weird. It's so quirky. I might have to find, I have it. I know exactly where it is. I might have to go get it and just tell you one of the poems, because it's like, I'm about it. It's raw and it's hilarious and weird, and it's good. It's by someone. Sea of Tranquility. It was good. I liked it a lot. But I also disliked parts of it. It was very beautifully written, but it was, I don't know. It read it and tell me what you think. I'm interested. It was 27 though. It got me thinking. It was beautifully written. 26 was Night. Heartbreaking. But very good. Britt Marie Was Here by Frederick Backman is 25, and it is an awesome book. It's about a woman who leaves her husband because he has a heart attack, and also she finds out that he was cheating on her, so she leaves and finds her own life, and it is very empowering and great. And it's Frederick Backman. So, Holmes. I'm not even going to try. I know who it's by. I'm going to butcher the name if I'm not looking at it. But this is a real book as well about a guy who was a Syrian refugee. And him and his family end up making it to Canada. And it is really amazing and inspiring. And it happened while I'm alive and was old enough to know that there were things going on, and I just didn't know how bad it was. And so it was very interesting to read about that. 24. That was 24. Holmes, yeah. 23. Writers and Lovers, which is by Lily King. It's really beautifully written. It's about a woman who is trying to write a book, and she's a waitress, and she's also grieving her own grievances and trauma, and she ends up writing her book, and I'm very excited for her. It's not real, but whatever, I'm so excited. It was a really good book as well. 22 is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, which is kind of about how every life choice that you make can change all of your other life choices, but it's also written in don't kill yourself way. It's anti-suicide. You deserve better, and you are better, and you should keep living, and has a good message, and it's a really good book. It's fun to go through this lady's all of her different avenues of what she could have chose. It was really interesting. So now we are getting into, that was 22. So let's do 21, which was Crazy Rich Asians, which was the last book that I read of 2022. And it was good. And I think I'm going to read the other two. It's probably 4.25 stars for me. So yeah. All right, let's get into the top 20. All right, so number 20, Iron Widow, which is an amazing book about a woman who rises to power somewhere where women don't rise to power, and helps an army and other people around her. And it also has not a love triangle, like a polygamous romance, which I'm super on board with and I loved. So 19, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'm going to need to reread this and reschedule my whole life around it because it's incredible and I can't wait. 18 is The Vanishing Half, which is about two sisters that grow up, and one grows up and pretends that she's white. They're light enough that she kind of meanders into that mainstream white, and she marries a white man, and her sister marries a very dark man and has a dark baby, and how different their lives are and how their lives revolve around those choices that they made in regards to that. And it's very good, but also very sad. I've read a lot of sad books. I didn't realize. Number 17 is The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, which is my favorite Brené Brown book that I read this year. I highly recommend it. There's not a lot, there's a million things I could say, but it made me laugh and cry because her vulnerability is just so good, and her humbleness, and read it. That's what I suggest. 16 is Aristotle and Dante dive into the waters of the world, which is the second book to Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. And Aristotle just comes into his own and finally, and it's really good. Number 15. Yes, that's accurate. Is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And I'm gonna reread this at some point. One of my friends is like, you have to read the Audible version because the Audible version is amazing. And I read it. So I guess I'll have to get the Audible version. And I'm sure it's gonna be incredible. So what he does is he talks about how Andy Weir he totally calls me out. So there's like this big moment that's gonna happen, and he's like, his character is like, oh, I'm bored. I'm just like doing something no one in the entire universe has ever done before, and I'm sitting here being bored. And he talks about how humans have like no ability to like focus and be content, and like it was hilarious because I was like reading through those pages as fast as I can to get to this climactic part, and I was like, dang it, Andy Weir, how dare you call out your reader like that. And I'm in love with one of the characters in this book, so probably one of my favorite characters ever. Definitely check it out. Also, one of my favorite characters is the main character in The Martian. So Andy Weir just has amazing characters for me. I love them. Okay. Number 14, Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which is a debut novel. It's an incredible book, and she is writing a second book, and I can't wait for it. Like, I love the way she wrote her characters. I love all of the action, the way she moves the story along, the beauty in her words, all of it is amazing. Number 13 is Unbroken, which is such an incredible book based on a true story about a guy that was in the Olympics and then went to war and then got shot down in a plane and then survived like almost 50 days at sea, like literally punching sharks, and then became a prisoner of war in Japan, and then came home and learned how to live through all that trauma and forgive like the people that put him through this shit. It is such an amazing book. Some parts are hard to read, but it's just incredible. Like, the whole story is amazing. 12 is The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I read through Audible, and Libby, I read it through Libby, and Libby, like, audio version, not Audibles. Oh my God, it made it amazing. Like, whoever read it, which I don't remember, did fantastic voices and really made the characters jump off the page. The story in itself is incredible with great morals, and I really loved it. 11 is Little Weirds by Jenny Slate, which I have talked about time and time again because it's such a unique book. Jenny Slate is an actress, and she is quirky as all get out, and her book shows it, and I'm in love with it. 10 is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zelvin, which I loved because it just says so many things so well. And I thought that one of the decisions that the writer made to do something was her being lazy because she couldn't figure out how to get out of the box she wrote herself in. But that is like kind of based on the title of the book, what she planned on doing the whole time. It's incredible. So yeah, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. 9 and 8 are Vow of Thieves and Dance of Thieves. It's a duology, so I'm giving it to both of them. I read these books at the beginning of the year. I just really, really enjoyed them. And it's a new world. It's enemies to lovers trope, which I don't think I love, but I loved it in this book. And actually, I loved it in my favorite book of the year too. So maybe I'm gonna have to check on that. All right. So anywho, that was 8 and 9. So 7. 7 is, please don't judge me, guys. 7 is a children's book called Life is Better with Friends that I got for my baby nephew that was just born on December 16th, because it's literally a book about friends, like my favorite TV show in the whole wide world, Ross and Rachel and Joey and Phoebe and Monica and Chandler, Friends. And it's just perfectly written. It was obviously written by someone that knows the show, and as someone that knows the show, I'm in love with it. So, super cute. 7. 6 is The Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Booley, which is about a Native American woman who's around 19 and like murders that are happening, and she helps a cop investigate, and it gets deep and lots of plot twists, and it's really good. 6 is 5. That was 6. 5 is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. It's a love letter to his son about growing up in America and not letting the hatred ruin you and make you bitter. And it's very deep, and every word is so meticulously used. It's a very short book that says so much. So that is my number 5. Number 4 is The Storyteller by Dave Grohl. That book made me laugh and cry. It has a lot of like badass stuff, some family stuff, some grieving stuff. It is life, 100%. Narrated by Dave Grohl, and it is incredible. And then for number 3, number 2, and number 1 is The Renegades Trilogy by Marissa Meyer. This is the first thing by Marissa Meyer I've ever read. I'm in love with it. I have her right behind me. There we go. I have her Cinder series that I'm planning on reading this year because I love the Renegades trilogy so much. It's about a group of superheroes, but they have like interesting, like very unique, some of them, superhero traits. One of them sketches things that become alive. The other one doesn't like fall asleep ever. Someone else becomes butterflies. Someone else bleeds diamond or rubies. So there's a lot going on, and it has political stuff, it has romance, it has adventure, a little bit of everything for everyone. So those are all 69 of the books that I read in 2022 and my ranking for them, which I could not have done without Storygraph because it lets me do 0.25, like 2.25 stars all the way up to 5 with 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, which really helps me like look at what I ranked everything and then rank them within that. So yay. Thank you, Storygraph, and Goodreads, because that's the other one that I use, which helps me choose which books I want to read and remind me that I want to read those books. So yeah, hopefully you guys heard some books that you were interested in there. Hopefully you heard some books that you loved that I didn't like, so you can shine some light on that for me. Hopefully you found some books that you didn't like that I loved, so maybe I could shine some light on it for you. Because that's what this is about, right? Is learning to love art through different aspects and coming together as a community to be like, I see what you're saying and I acknowledge it and I respect it and you're right in some aspects, but this is why I feel differently. So we can have those conversations mixed with love and respect. So yeah. Anyway, that is my list. And for 2022, I'm very excited to talk to you guys about what I'm reading in 2023 now. And I hope that you all had a great New Year's, and take care. Namaste.